Hello and welcome to another video on my C# Basics series. As always, please go ahead and follow me on GitHub. You have my website and of course my email address if you have any questions and you want to get in touch with me. Right then, so this one is pretty straightforward. We are back to one of those isolated topic situations. We already talked about branching, conditional branching, Boolean expressions, and all those things where we are able to control the flow of the program based on values. We also talked about nested if-else's and stuff like that. Now, there are some scenarios, where you already know the different branches where the program is going to flow. So let's say you're trying to do something like give a different message based on the day portion, like morning, afternoon, evening, and night. So we already know that there are 4 values. You have morning, afternoon, evening, and night. And under any circumstances, it's not possible for these 4 values to change. Morning will always be morning, afternoon will always be afternoon, evening will always be evening, and then night will always be night. Now these 4 values, although they are strings, we can think of them as values. They will always be the same. So you already know in advance that, okay, let's say, for morning you have a message like, hello, good morning. Afternoon you have like, hey, did you have lunch? Evening is like, did you have your evening tea? And night is like, are you going to bed? So in those scenarios where you already know in advance what you're going to do, you literally use a switch. Let me bring up my Paint software here. So if I go to my Paint software, it looks something like this. So this is the day, which part of day. And from here, you only have 4 options. You have morning, and then you have afternoon, and then you have evening, and then you have night. So there are only 4 options here. There's not much else you can do. So you have this, 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 and this. So based on that, let's say you're gonna just say, hey, good morning. You're gonna say lunchtime. Then you're going to say coffee mug or something, and then night is like the time to sleep. So that's literally a switch. There are 4 states, and you simply switch based on what part of the day it is. So when you have such scenarios where you already know the exact possibilities, that is the ideal situation. You can do the same thing with else. You can do something like if day is equal to morning, else if day is equal to afternoon, else if day is equal to evening, and else if day is equal to night. And that's great. You can still use if else for everything. As a matter of fact, I am not personally a very big fan of switch. As you can see from my videos, I can get very opinionated on my programming choices, my style of coding, and things like that. So I personally am not a big fan of switch. Whenever I have to do something, I again make my life a little simple, and I just use if else and stuff like that. But then again, I'm a coding tutor mostly, so I'm not really worried about optimization or accuracy in that regard. Like, hey, this has to be a switch, this has to be. I don't worry about, as long as I get the output for the purpose of my learning classes, I'm fine with it. But yes, switch is something which a lot of people use, and there are certain scenarios where you have to use switch, which is much more efficient way of doing it. So that's what we are going to do. So I have my example code here in my second monitor. So let's go ahead and try to do a simple switch program. So as always, let's go ahead and create a new solution. This is from the last one. And here I'm going to say switch. Okay, and voila. Okay, and there we go. So what we are going to do is, and here I'm going to say the example I gave in the Paint. Let's try to do this one, right? It's not really in the script. The example code is different, but I'm going to try. So var time of day is equal to morning. Okay, so that's a string, and here I'm going to say switch time of day. Okay, there we go. Here I'm going to say case, and here I'm going to say morning, and then here I'm going to say console. Oh, that's not cast, it's case. Case morning, and here I'm going to say, let me just make sure the syntax is correct. Yeah, it is correct. Case, oh, sorry. Yeah, that's fine actually. Yeah, there you go. I was just thinking, why is there a red line? So let's just copy paste that. Okay, all right, There are 4 scenarios for us in the case of time of day. So let's try to do that. Okay, this is going to be afternoon, this is going to be evening, this is going to be night. Now here I can go and say console.writeLine hello and morning. Okay, now depending on the situation, I'm going to give a different output. Let's go ahead and put this here and here and here. So this is going to be afternoon. I'm going to say afternoon. Hey, it is, let's have a sumptuous lunch, you know, like a nice big lunch. Here's like 2 mugs of coffee, please. 2 mugs of coffee, please. And finally, time to bed. Okay, so when I do this, I'll get the output as hello and morning. See? Okay, now I want to try something else. I'm going to change this to afternoon. And the output is going to be let's have a sumptuous lunch. Now what if my mistake, I enter something which is not here? So that is where you have the option called default. And here I'm going to say, again, let's copy paste this. Let's align these. I told you, you know, coding thing, follow the conventions, make your code readable, easy to look at. And here I'm going to say unknown time of day. Because I don't know, you know, there must be missing unknown time of day, check time of day spelling. Usually it's a spelling mistake. So if I go back and just do some afternoon or dawn something, so I'm going to say run and I'm going to get the default like unknown time of day, check day of spelling. So there you go. So that is what a switch statement really is. You know, it's very straightforward, nothing complex there, and it is essentially a replacement for if else. Now, as I mentioned personally, I don't really care for switch that much. So whenever I'm doing something which has multiple values, I just go ahead and use an if else. But at the same time, there are places where switch is very much valid, and you know, it's up to you how you want to do it. As always in programming, there are multiple ways to do the same thing. Which one you choose becomes a personal choice based on the context and what you are doing at that point of time. So there we go. That's another very quick video about switch statements. And that's all there is to it. And I'll see you in the next one.